It's BBC Radio 6 Music, and that is Remain, and it's taken from Inferno. It's the new album from Robert Forster. How are you doing, Robert?
I'm very well, thank you, Gideon.
That sounds very good, as does the rest of the new record. Well done on it.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
And is it nice to be back on the hard-working promotional trail? Because thanks for joining us so late. I know you've been working almost throughout today.
Yeah, I know. I enjoy it. I mean, I've been in quiet times in Brisbane, my hometown, with family, and just doing very everyday things. And so it's a great thrill to suddenly be taken out of that world and put into summer, winter London.
Yeah, the strange thing that's going on here. It's not right, but in the short term, it's enjoyable for some.
It is. It's amazing. And but you're right, it's scary at the same time. But and so yeah, suddenly like talking about the record, being in a like a radio station and hearing it go through BBC 6. I mean, that's just joyful for me.
That particular tune seems to point forward as well as back. It also seems to be quite. And there's a theme. One of the themes in this record, there's this element of contentment about it at the same time as being, honest and aware of what's going on and what's happening.
Yeah, no, that's a very good summation of it. And often, like themes or ideas that come to records, because you're writing the song separately and over years, you don't really see it until you record all the tracks, and suddenly you see that certain songs like talk to each other in a way. But yes, that song sort of Remain has set a little bit about me thinking about times in the 90s when like I was a little bit in the wilderness, and where I was living was far away, and my wife and I were raising children, and so I wasn't, the spotlight was definitely not on me. But like I remember that time fondly, but it just sort of coincided with that melody, and I just thought I could go back and re-examine that feeling from where I am today,
And you mentioned the process of these songs developing. Is it a case of you get a certain, almost like a number of them ready, and then you're ready to go? Is it as simple as that?
It does. It is, yes. It's a gathering material. It takes me about, if I'm lucky, I'll write 2 or 3 songs I like a year. Normally it can be 1 or 2. So really, for me to get an album together takes about 4 or 5 years. And it's been that way in terms of the number of songs that I write, really since the early 80s. And I try every trick in the trade to try and sort of trick up a couple of new numbers, like you write first thing in the morning or late at night or whatever. But that's just the way that they come to me, so I accept it now.
Yeah, there's a part in Grant and I, we'll return to the book from time to time, I'd imagine this evening, where you talk about at one point having these, for you, these song titles, you thought that would work, but literally nothing else to go with them apart from the title.
I know, which, a song title, unfortunately, is not a song. But,
it's a good start.
It is. I have books of them, and song titles, come to me easily, and lyrics do generally as well. It's the melodies that I find difficult.
You say that, but the sort of gentle rolling riff on the first number, in terms of the way you sequence this record, which is Crazy Jane and the Day of Judgment.
Yeah.
That is a lovely way to get into the record, isn't it?
That's what I thought, and it's unusual as well, because often people start with a real punch, or in a variety of ways you can open a record. But it was just, I heard that when we recorded it, and I just thought it's just a lovely melodic 2-chord melody. It's kind of hypnotic, but it's not like deadly slow. Like there's momentum to it, and my vocal doesn't come in to probably like 30 seconds or 40 seconds or something like that. So I just liked it. And there's a few musical things happen before I start singing, so it's a really nice entrance, and it sets the mood for the record really well.
This record was recorded in Berlin. It's part of your long association with that city. Just when you first visited Berlin as a music fan, and with its connotation, which has been talked about a fair amount on Six Music recently, did it immediately live up to your expectations?
Oh, yeah. Like we went there. We used to tour there in the mid-'80s, early 80s, to go-betweens. And it was like playing. No, well, getting there was like, because there was one road that you drove down for hours that you weren't allowed to leave, and then you'd get to the border, and it was almost terrifying. Like it was machine guns and very, very heavy. And then you'd get through, and you just felt like you're on this little island in the middle of nowhere, and people were living very intensely. And it really did have a one city in the world atmosphere, Berlin. I think the first time we went there was in '83. So we went probably 4 times in the '80s before the wall came down in late 1989. And then I recorded an album there in Hansa Studios in 1990. Which was my first solo album.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, because that was Danger in the Past, and it was I'll call it the first album, as you say, in the sort of post-go-between times, because it was complicated what went on in the intervening years. Are there any echoes of those days when you were making this record?
Not really. The only thing in common, I wouldn't have really gone there. What drew me was that Victor Van Vught, who engineered Danger in the Past and has had a career as a producer-engineer, he moved there about 4 years ago. He'd been in New York for about 15 years, and he moved to Berlin, and he had a studio. And a German translation of my book, Grant and I, came out in Germany about September 2017, and I went there to promote it, and Victor came along to the book launch, and so I knew he was there. We're still friends, and he told me that he had a studio, but I didn't have all the songs ready. I still had to write Remain, which we heard, and I wrote another one called The Morning soon after that, and then I thought I had the songs, and then I thought of Victor. But really it was Victor that brought me to the city.
We'll hear The Morning in a bit. I want to play the title number now, though. This is Inferno, Brisbane in Summer. Robert Forster and Inferno, Brisbane in Summer, from the new album Inferno, which is coming out this Friday on Tapeta Records. Robert Forster is here on Six Music, and as I mentioned, no bad thing at all, but there's a touch of Bowie stroke Mott about that particular tune, isn't there? There
is, and it sort of came around almost accidentally. It wasn't something that we went into. I'd written the song, and we were just sort of workshopping before we went in, and I said, there was a piano there, and I can't play very well, but I just went, oh, look, I think we've got to have that ding, 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 ding. And I was thinking like rock and roll, and then we were talking about the guitar, and with Scott, the guitar player, who also plays bass on the thing, and I sort of said, like, we need some sort of like early 70s, like McCartney stuff, like that when he was like Junior's Farmer, something like that. And then he started to work on that, and that became a little bit more Phil Manzanera. And then when we were in the studio and we got a proper piano player to play that, and we just did the take, suddenly all the sort of glam connotations just hit us. We just sort of heard it all for the first time playing it live, and it was like, oh, this is... And suddenly I heard Mott the Hoople and a bit of Roxy. And normally I don't do that sort of referencing, but it was just that sort of... We just put the elements together, not knowing that when you put all those things together, that's what you get.
Yeah, it happened naturally. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely no problem with that, and it sounds great as well.
Oh, thank you.
I just want... since the last record, there have been a couple of... we've already mentioned Grant and I as a bit of a sort of a landmark, but also Right Here. I've not seen the film Right Here.
All right, yeah, okay.
I think it's had limited screenings.
Yeah.
Is it something do you like it?
I do like it. I think it's a very good documentary of the band up until about 1989. The last bit is quite rushed. And, so to me the film could have had another 20 minutes. But besides all of that, I think it's it's quite cinematic. Like the director, fellow by the name of Kriv Stenders, who we've known for a long time, makes feature films. So it's sort of got a distinct cinematic feel to it. It doesn't look like a normal rock documentary, which is good because in a way it suits us because we weren't a normal rock band. And no, I think it's really good. And people come up to me and and tell me they really like it. So yeah, no, I do too.
And Grant and I is a beautiful book, and with the two of them, I've not seen Right Here yet, but there's a feeling from the outside of the story being told, obviously being told specifically from your point of view with the book, but also more broadly, I suppose, in terms of the input from Right Here. Do you feel that's what's happened? The story has been told there.
Yeah, I do think that's the case. It's, and we're also at the moment. I'm like, while I'm in town here now, we're compiling the Go-Betweens box set, and so we're volume 2 is going to come out at the end of this year. So I'm doing that during the day as well. So like there's the box set, which is going to cover 1985 to 1989. There's the book. There's the film. I think it's well covered, and I'm happy with the way that it's done, and I can't think of anything more that I can say on that.
No.
Time really.
Yeah, no, and well, for those who haven't read the book, it's in there, and it's alongside what is in places quite a raw story, and obviously a touching story and a sad story in places. It also is regularly very funny in places. There are some extraordinary Nick Rogue's knee, the Lee Remick encounter. I don't want to give anything away about I'll just say Blake Carrington as well. And also there's a very good memory for particular standout performances, CBGB and the Tallulah tour. Was that something you documented? Was it something that just came stored in your brain?
No, it was in my brain. I went into the book with a simple thing of what I remembered must have been important. I didn't want to do where I'm like getting source material and talking to people and going through diaries and going online and trying to piece together this huge mosaic. I thought I remembered enough, and I thought I must have remembered that for a purpose, because it was good, or it was extraordinary, or it was really bad, whatever. And so I just thought I'll write it from memory, and that's what I did. Yeah,
absolutely. And you get, in some ways, you get both of those. You get the debut Paris show narrator here. It wasn't great, and then you get the returning glory, the extraordinary, the redemption Paris show as well. I'll play another record now. I could either play. I've got 3 lined up possible here, and I've got. I've been looking for somebody. Twin Layers of Lightning. I've got The Morning as well to play, and I've got I'll Look After You. Any preference at this stage?
Oh, look, Twin Layers of Lightning would be lovely.
Here we go then. Go-Betweens and Twin Layers of Lightning. Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, I know. That was amazing I listen to that track every now and then. It's one of those things where it's so good you almost don't believe that you had anything to do with it. It's like that.
It's mentioned in Grant and I, and there are signposts in the book as well, which can send readers scurrying to find recordings. Obviously, that would be more familiar. But I hadn't heard the KCRW version of Quiet Heart. Until I saw that mentioned. That hasn't been made available commercially at all.
No, it's actually going to be in the box set.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
a beautiful recording.
Yeah, that's an amazing take of that song.
A listener question from Trenton who says, "What do you think?" Feel free to forward defence of this back to me if you wish. But what do you think of the music coming out of Brisbane today? Indeed, do you believe a city can evoke a certain sound or style? That is said about certain places, isn't it?
It is. I'm a firm believer that it does. I think it's just something about what happens inside the city's borders. I think influences and generations and friends. It gets incestuous, and it's sort of everyone's sort of talking about. You've got to listen to that record, and you've got to listen to that record, and then 100 miles down the road, people are talking about different records, and are talking about different sounds, and Yeah, I think it's definitely goes in every country, really. I think, there's the Liverpool thing, there's what happens in Manchester here and Glasgow, like Dublin, like it's the same in Australia, like the cities are very spread out, but there's a reason why, like, the Triffids came from Perth. If you ever go to Melbourne, you immediately understand Nick Cave. You understand the birthday party. You understand the bad seeds after about a week in Melbourne, And it's the same in Brisbane, I hope, like the go-betweens, the Saints also were from Brisbane. And I just think there's something that if you went to Brisbane, you could hear the go-betweens perhaps, and you can hear the Saints.
Yeah, but similarly, don't you think that when musicians then move, as you did, you moved around Australia a bit, did that alter the sound to some extent?
Yeah, it does, but I mean, it depends what juncture in the band's career, but and I think that's good, because I think bands need to move as well. I think that's part of it. You get a sound and you get an identity and it's solid, but then, you can start to sort of just suffocate on just the same influences. I think it's always good for musicians to move and take on new things. And normally, like if you're strong enough, what you had, you'll keep.
Yeah. I try to avoid when speaking to, I don't mean this in a patronising way, but speaking to younger musicians from time to time, if I see in a gig and making comparisons, saying you remind me of.
Yeah.
But I find the times I do that is generally it's or quite often it's you remind me of the Go-Betweens.
Oh, right.
I wonder if do you hear that much when you hear groups?
Bits of it, but I do, but there's certain people that get compared to us and I don't hear it. Mm-hmm. So I do, but then I know what the Go-Betweens influences are, and I'm almost like feel like saying, yeah, but we got it from this, and but I think that we are one of those bands, and I've seen it for a number of years, where we are a touchstone. Like people do put us, like down. I see it in the press, and we are one of those bands, which, like is a sense of great pride for me that happens, and that younger musicians are inspired by us. I mean, I just find that very humbling and beautiful.
Let's have something else from Inferno now. You mentioned The Morning earlier. I'd like to play it now. Do you want to say anything about it?
This is a favourite of mine. One of them off the album. It's just got a classicism to it that I'm really happy that I hit occasionally, that everything I do is not completely idiosyncratic, that I can write something quite straight. And that's what this song has got.
Robert Forster and The Morning from Inferno, the new album. We should, Robert, mention in full the personnel on this record, because I think that the ensemble as a whole sound really good together.
Oh, thank you.
So who should we credit? Sorry.
We'll start. We'll imagine they're in here. And
yes,
I'm just
introduce the band, if you will.
I'm just introducing the band. On drums was Earl Harvin, and he's the drummer for Tindersticks. He plays in the. He's a session player. He's done like Seal, Joe Jackson, Beyonce. So he's sort of. I've never worked with a session drummer before, but he was just fantastic. Scott Bromley is on bass and guitar, and he played on Songs to Play. He's from Brisbane. Karen Boimler is singing on that. She plays violin on the record and glockenspiel. And on piano is a fellow by the name of Michael Mulhouse, who I'd played with before, and he's from Berlin. And he's sort of been in a couple of well-known German bands. And myself, it's a 5-piece. It's quite, like compact.
Yeah, and it works very well on this record. I mean, you mentioned the plaudits that Go-Between's records receive, and I know Go-Between songs will form part of your live set when you play live, quite right too. But I hope there's an element of, it sounds a bit like blowing smoke, but nonetheless, an element of pride in your solo records as well, because they're catching up in a way. With
They are, and like this was really pleasing me. Like the last 3 albums that I've done, the Evangelist, Songs to Play, and Inferno, I've been really happy with. Like really, and I'm starting to see it as a substantial body of work, that I'm really, really proud of. I'm just so thrilled that I'm writing songs that I really like, and that I'm making good choices with who I'm working with and what I do. And, when I do play live, I will be playing Go-Between songs in the set. But, I really feel that I could do a really good show just on the last 3 albums. And a lot of those songs will be part of it. I'll there's a lot to choose from. I've already started. But, I'm really going to put a good set together.
Fantastic, and the band is drilled and road ready and ready to go as well.
Not yet. No.
There's plenty of time. So
we're putting it together. It's going to be Scott and Karen from Brisbane, and I've got a Swedish rhythm section. I did a tour there, Scandinavian tour about 16 months ago, and I played with this bass player and drummer who are really good, and I thought they'll work well.
Fantastic. A couple of things to mention, sorry. Charlie in Wisconsin just asked about the Royal Bastard by King of Luxembourg. Do the Go-Betweens play on the Rubens Room? Lovely track.
We do. I was involved with the King of Luxembourg for a while. In the mid 80s, we made a record together, and I can remember that song, and I was in on that session. I don't know how many from the Go-Betweens. I think Lindy plays drums on it.
Okay, but not the whole lot of you.
Yeah, good record though.
The tour dates are 14th of May at the Union Chapel in London, on the 15th at the Fleece in Bristol, Band on the Wall Manchester on the 16th of May, St Luke's in Glasgow the 17th. There are some shows in Ireland at the Button Factory in Dublin on the 19th, and Cypress Avenue in Cork on the 20th of May. There is a Mark Riley session in there too, I'll imagine in and around, or possibly on the day of the Manchester show on the 16th of May. And I'm going to, finally, the one misstep that you talk about in your book is the covers album, but that in turn led me to Mickey Newbury's Frisco Depot, which I really like, and I may play in a bit. But ahead of that, I think I'll play I'll Look After You, if that's okay.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, and I'll say, listen, Inferno's out on Friday on Tapeta Records, and Robert Forster, thanks a million for dropping by.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
You find yourself searching your past for the links to the chain.
Mickey Newbury and Frisco Depot, as covered once upon a time by Robert Forster, and before that it was Robert Forster and I'll Look After You from Inferno, the new album. It's out on Friday. It's the official release date. There's a copy in the hand of Suze. It says, I hold the album Inferno on vinyl here. So great to hear current Robert Forster. Indeed, thanks again to Robert Forster for dropping by tonight. Don't ask me yet. I'm asking myself, though, when the midpoint of the programme will be. It'll be in a while, and even later than usual.